Hello friends, so for today's video I'm going to be going over the books that I'm hoping to pick up in January. I'm just going to jump right into it. The first two would be the first of Brandon Sanderson's Secret Projects. That's kind of a given, and I think it's probably going to be on a lot of people's DVRs, but then also I'm planning to pick up The Way of Kings. So The Way of Kings will be a reread for me. I love this series. I don't think that's news to most of you. And I'm hoping to read through all of Sanderson's Cosmere in 2023. The idea is that I want to, for anybody that maybe discovered Brandon Sanderson through his secret projects, I want them to have an opportunity to kind of get to experience the Cosmere and hopefully have this sense of community because other people will be reading through it as well. And I plan to do live show discussions for all of these Cosmere books and the secret projects as well. So I wanted to provide some kind of space where you can pick them up for the first time or reread them. I'm very excited to be rereading this. Also, a big bonus, of course, is the fact that hopefully in 2024 we'll get the fifth book in this series. So that's another reason why it'd be nice to kind of get a refresher. Obviously, this world is huge. Each of the books is over 1,000 pages. I don't need to say any more about the Stormlight Archive. I know all of you have an idea, basically, of what they're about. So I'm going to start my reread of Way of Kings in January. The live show for it won't take place in January, though. So I probably will very much be having a slow reading pace through Way of Kings. Just take my time with it, maybe annotate it, or at least tab certain moments, get certain quotes that stand out to me, find things that make me wonder about what might happen in book 5, because Brandon Sanderson is known to foreshadow long in advance. So anyway, Way of Kings, I'm going to be rereading that, or starting my reread, and then also The Secret Project, which for spoiler reasons, I'm not going to say anything about. I know that The Secret Project's beyond them just being secrets that Sanderson kept close until all of a sudden he announced that he had written all these different books during 2020. The premise of each of them is very much kept quiet, so I don't want to spoil anything. I am very excited. I'm excited because of the inspiration for it and the way that Sanderson has been discussing it. So I'm very excited for both of these. After that, we have Legends and Lattes, very different from Stormlight Archive. It says on the top, a novel of high fantasy and low stakes. And I feel like that's the exact opposite of Stormlight Archive. But regardless, I know a lot of people have said this is the ultimate cozy fantasy. And I am intrigued and I'm interested to get into it. It wasn't really highest priority for me, but I know that a lot of you have really been recommending it. Anytime I talk about cozy fantasy, it is always brought up. And then beyond that, I had this on my list of books that came out in 2022 that I still want to get around to because I've been doing my new releases wrap-ups and I plan to continue doing that in 2023. So if you missed it, my plan is each month I will have 3 books from that list of new releases that I didn't get the chance to read. And every time I do a new releases wrap-up this next year in 2023, I plan to have a From the Vault new release on that list as well, which means that these are books that came out in 2022. There will be 1 book mentioned in each of the new releases, and the rest of them will be books that have come out in 2023. And when I pick these 3 books, I will have my patrons vote on which of the 3 they want me to read first, and this was the first one that won. I knew it would be. I know a lot of people have really liked it. It's picked up steam and really taken off. So yeah, I'm excited to see what I think of this one. Speaking of the new releases, like I said, I plan to continue doing new releases wrap-ups. I really like giving you a little bit more insight and information on the books that are coming out. A lot of us really enjoy doing anticipated releases or watching anticipated releases, but then sometimes it's a little bit of crickets as far as follow-up on those. So I like being able to give you an idea of what the books are about. So any of the books that were on my anticipated releases for January are possible things for me to pick up in January, but the 3 that I would say are taking top priority would be Godkiller, Song of Silver Flame-like Night, and Stolen Air. Godkiller, even though I want to get around to this one right away, I believe it is only being published through a UK publisher, and from what I can tell, it's not yet available to purchase through US retailers. So my only concern is that this one might not get to me even within January. I hope it does because I really want to jump right into it. It sounds really interesting, but it might get pushed back to February, and if it does, I'll pick up one of the other anticipated releases. Song of Silver Flame Like Night. It is a Chinese-inspired fantasy story following a girl who her country, it would seem, has been conquered, and she's kind of kept to herself, tried to get by, and then I think eventually she gets to a point where she's sort of done hiding, and she has some magical abilities that she might not quite know how to access and use, and then another character seems to have some information on those magical abilities. That's what I've gathered anyway. This author, I read one of their books earlier in 2022 and I really liked it, and I want to continue on with their first series as well as read this new one. And speaking of keeping up with the other series that I read and continuing on with it, that's also, if I can get around to it, going to be on my January TBR. It's not as high priority. The series starts with the book Blood Heir, and it is just a trilogy, so I would just need to read the next 2 books. They're up there. So I'd only just need to read the next 2. I have alternate sleeves for them, but the second one would be called Red Tigress. So hoping to pick up just more of this author's works. Stolen Heir is by Holly Black, and it takes place in the Folk of the Air world that she created, and some people aren't aware of the series name. So the first book would be Cruel Prince. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Cruel Prince before, but I'm very intrigued to see what Holly Black does in Stolen Heir because it is a very manipulative, scheming-centered kind of fantasy story, and I always enjoy those kinds of setups. After that, I will either be picking up The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue or Piranesi. I mentioned both of these in my anti-5-star predictions, and the idea for that video was that I took the typical concept of the 5-star predictions, which is very self-explanatory. Basically, you think you're gonna absolutely love a book, it'll be a new favorite, and these are books that something about them makes me think they might not be new favorites, but some of my favorite books have been ones that have completely taken me aback and not actually been within what I usually like. And so I'm always open to trying things, even if perhaps they're not my usual. And I'm open to being surprised. I'm hoping that is the case with these books. But the reason I say I will pick up one or the other is because just like with the 2022 new releases that are going to be from the vault in 2023, I am letting my patrons decide which one I pick up. So we'll see which one wins, but one of those 2 should be read in January. After that, I'm hoping to finally pick up some Mercedes Lackey and start the Arrows trilogy. This is the bind-up of the trilogy, so I'm sure I can at least get through the first one. Maybe I'll go ahead and read more depending on what my reading is like in January. This series is an older one, and it's on my list of backlist fantasy that I really want to get around to. I've heard really good things, not just about the series, but about this author as a whole. I'm planning to buddy read this with my friends Shoshana and Monet, and I'll have them linked in the description bar. So I'm really excited to do a buddy read with the 2 of them. I've buddy read with the 2 of them before, and it's been really fun. And I'm just excited for Mercedes Lackey, especially because the world of Valdemar that this series takes place in, there's a lot of series within this world. And so I'm hoping that I'll basically find myself almost like another Cosmere, where it's shared and maybe you don't love one series as much as the other, but you like it well enough that you're willing to try anything, and then there's all these books that you can explore. I am a little intimidated though because there's so many and there's a lot of different reading orders that you can follow, but pretty much every single thing I've come across, and a lot of you have told me that you're good to go by starting with the Arrows trilogy. So fingers crossed I like it, fingers crossed that Monet and Shoshana like it. I'm really excited. This might be the one that I'm the most, I'm excited about a lot of these, so I shouldn't say it, but I've just been wanting to read it for so long, so I'm excited to finally do that. That's it though for my January TBR. Let me know what you're planning to pick up in the new year, what you're planning to pick up in January. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.